United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and liberty and justice for all.
Thank you and welcome to our regular meeting of July 7th. Please note the council is in attendance except for Mr. Halapaska. He's absent. First thing on our agenda is items from council.
I have one item.
Go ahead, Mr. Bucknight.
I'd received a call from a concerned citizen about weed height, and I know that he's asked code enforcement to go out there and look at it and send some letters. I did reiterate, and he understood too, that with all the rains and it's finally drying out to get to mow, but just want to remind everybody to make sure to keep their weeds down and also keep their clippings out of the street because they will be long.
And it's probably a good time for us to do re-education on those clippings in the street, a reminder to the public and to the landscape companies that they're not supposed to be blowing clippings. So I know I stop when I see them and ask them to stop. So, but it's a good reminder, Jeff. Thank you.
I had a long conversation with him this afternoon also. Good conversation. One of the things I took away from it that I was going to suggest, repeat offenders, perhaps in our system, code enforcement software system, if they could flag repeat offenders. I know we often, when people call me to complain and they see a lawn care service doing something that they shouldn't, I ask them to take a picture and then submit that. And we will gently remind the lawn care service, and perhaps if there is some that are repeating, we can impose a fine at some point. So maybe y'all could discuss that.
Be glad to.
And I don't know if he brought that up to you, but.
I think yeah.
Okay.
Well, I have a complaint also. I had a constituent call me about the potholes that are between 1400s of Lewis Street, or Lewis and Red River. And she said she had called up there, and I don't know who she didn't give me who she spoke to, but she said they told her that the work order was processed and it was done. So she said she immediately called back and said that she wanted to report a theft, that apparently the potholes, somebody had stolen all the asphalt off of them, so. But she was serious in that, yeah, that there is a serious, she says she understands that we're working out there on, on the sewer pipes and stuff, but this is getting too bad, she goes. So if somebody could please go out there and take a look again and make sure that asphalt is in those potholes.
There's no doubt that because of the rain, the pothole problem has been magnified, and we're trying to catch up. Again, because of the rain, it's hard for us to catch up, but Lynn's crews are going to start working overtime since it's dry right now, and we think it's going to be dry, to try to, in addition to the overtime, hopefully catch up with the potholes. Okay. And then when people call in, we have that commitment to fill those potholes within 48 hours. So in addition to working a zone, they're also, moving to try to fill those. So we encourage the community to still call us, so we'll know especially when it's really bad. So,
yes,
but
she said it was pretty bad there. So.
Yeah. So I made a note, and I know Lynn did. So
I saw it.
We'll look at it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now that we're on a roll, in Woodway, I know we just redid those. There's a serious issue, and do you know, you're shaking your head, Lynn, the cut-through street, the one that we've had problems with over years?
Railroad.
Yeah, I have some pictures of that. That is downright dangerous. I'm not sure what's going on. You have failure in the subgrade there. But y'all, if y'all are aware of it, I'm good.
We are, and we've got a contract with a contractor to come in there and start making some of those point repairs, because there are numerous failures in Woodway.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have a couple things, council. Y'all have, I wanted to postpone E1, which is, but I wanted to ask y'all if that was okay, because I know Mr. Halapaska's not here. He had asked me about it, if I would be willing to do that. I told him I would ask y'all. That is and I apologize, I think Dr. Campbell's here. I did not know for sure whether it would be postponed or not. That's why I would have called her ahead of time. I wanted to ask y'all to the next agenda when Mr. Halapaska's here.
It's fine with me.
That's fine with me, too.
Okay. I apologize if we made you come down. Mr. Halapaska would like to be part of that discussion, so, okay. We'll move E1 to what agenda would that be?
The 21st, July 21st.
Okay. All right, very good. a question also I had, Riverside Park. I'm getting a lot of questions about when will Grover's Bend be open, and then the street failure. Is that McWright along the golf course where it's kind of, get a little update on some of that?
I know with Grovers and Foxes, because of the silt, when the river overflowed, it had to dry out before we could start cleaning that up, and it's starting to dry. And Danielle tells me that they're starting in Grover's Bend, so.
Yes, we are looking at Grover's Bend right now. Fox's Bend has not been touched, but we are working at it, getting over there and start putting the new granite gravel in and rebuilding that parking lot along with the trail.
I walked back there to Grover's, I guess to the beach, is that whatever we call that beach? And it's changed drastically back there.
Yes, the river has changed a lot.
There's more beach now. Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
Maybe we should start charging a beach access fee.
No,
I'm teasing.
cover that microphone up. Okay, the last item that I wanted to bring up, just very general discussion, if there's any interest from council, I received a call about, the texting and driving issue. That's a big issue everywhere, and, we do not ban that behavior, or we do not have an ordinance that bans it. And interesting conversation with a lady, and I did a little homework. I know 44 states, I did not realize this, have banned it completely. Texas, the House had passed some legislation to ban it in the state of Texas, but it got lost between the House and the Senate. And there's about 50 communities in Texas that have banned it. I know that's something that's sensitive. There's a lot of different opinions on it. Is this council, are y'all interested in any further discussion about it? I was going to ask for staff perhaps to render an opinion at an upcoming meeting maybe. Are there any thoughts? I know this is just sudden. You could bring it back under items from council at the next meeting perhaps if we choose.
We do have texting while driving in school zones. There are fines associated with that here. Is that a local ordinance?
That's state
Even
law.
being on a
That's
phone.
state.
Yep, being on the phone.
Being on
Being
the
on
phone,
the
just in
phone, I
general.
don't know about texting, but I know I saw that.
Is it phone, you need
It's a
phone
phone.
cell
Using your
use?
phone.
Oh, using phone period?
I feel strongly that probably the next session in Austin it'll get passed. I could be wrong though. I don't know. That I'm just saying if we waited, but I don't know what y'all's thoughts
Would
are.
you distinguish between texting and being on the cell phone?
That's a good question, Mr. Alvarez, and perhaps we'd have to look at ordinances other cities have adopted. So,
I wouldn't mind having a discussion about it, to talk about it a little bit, but I'm not in forward of moving forward with any ordinance.
A discussion's great, but I cannot put it back on the 21st because I know the chief's going to be gone, some out of the office, and he and I and Thomas would need to have a little more discussion. So could I have more than just 2 weeks?
sure, absolutely.
So-
I don't,
Okay.
no rush. I just
Okay.
wanna,
Maybe within the next month, bring something back? Okay.
Are y'all okay with that?
Sometime in August?
I just feel like we owe it to the public to have this discussion. It is there's compelling reasons to do it, there's, reasons not to, and let's talk about it. So,
Sure.
okay, maybe
We'll do
y'all
our-
come back with some thoughts, and Mr. Gush, perhaps look at some ordinances, there's probably different degrees, there's enforcement issues, there's a lot of things to
Right.
discuss. Okay. All right, good enough then, thank you. I think that's all I had. Is there anything else, items?
Consent item pulls,
I did, yeah.
but no.
Anything from the consent agenda? No, okay. Well, very good. Well, we'll close items from council. We'll move into citizens' communication. And anyone here can come up and speak on any issue that they like, whether it's on the agenda or not. And please limit your comments to at least maximum 5 minutes out of respect for everyone else.
Okay, I'm Melissa Dixon. I'm the director of the Children's Discovery Museum. And
Tanya Wilkinson, Education Coordinator.
And we just want to take a minute to, I know you guys will be discussing the city block grant funding tonight. And the Children's Discovery Museum was not recommended to be funded, and we would like to ask you to reconsider that. And a few reasons on that. One reason that we requested 30% for administration, and is this is a new thing for us, and taking client intake information is a big deal. So one way, we have a very small staff, Tanya and I being the only full-time employees, and one part-time college student. So one way in which that we thought we could help that information is having an online system. And that is something that we're trying out for the very first time using summer camps. But it could be built specifically for this. It would kick out anybody that lived outside of city limits. It would automatically not let them progress forward in the application. It would allow them to fill out any kind of information needed for that client intake. So that's one of the reasons that we do have a higher cost in there for administration. So that's one thing we ask you to consider as well. And one of the things that was listed on the report is that some of the programs that we do, we cannot take client intake information, and that's correct, and it won't be part of our museum access program, which is what we're asking for funding for. And part of that is that we offer in-school field trips. And so that is something that when we go into a school, we cannot take client intake information. So we do offer that as a service and try to get as much of that funded through other funding sources to provide those services free of charge for our students as well. So do you have anything to add?
The Museum Without Walls programming is making a huge difference in families' lives right now. We have anything from music classes, from babies all the way to the preschool age. We have art and sensory workshops. This coming year, we'll have our Dr. Seuss birthday celebration, which will extend into Saturday. And so this access card would give that family access to our Dr. Seuss birthday celebration, where they're learning about literacy and reading, access to the music classes, access to the art and sensory workshops, access to any robotics clubs that we may have, access to our New Year's party, where they can celebrate with a countdown to noon. And it's really invaluable programming that we are bringing to a lot of people. We would really like to bring it to the lower income group, and we are very small staff, and we are working overtime to get things done for our community and doing every possible thing we can and putting every ounce of ourselves into it. And the city's support on this would be greatly appreciated, and it would give us that boost that would just keep us going on a day-to-day basis, and it would allow us to serve all families, not based on whether or not they can afford it, all families. So I urge you to reconsider.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jenny Stafford. I live at 210 Weirden, and I'm the Director of Midcoast Family Services. And I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the Women's Crisis Center. In February of this year, we celebrated our 3rd anniversary at that location, and wanted to bring you up to speed about where we are with that. That building cost us $1.75 million, and the city funded a tremendous amount of that. Just for those of you who are maybe new on the council, the city gave us $100,000 for our soft cost, and then an additional $400,000 for actual construction costs using CDBG funds. If I remember correctly, it was the first time that CDBG funds had been directed towards a public service like that. In the past, had been directed in other ways. And as an add-on to that, we've received another $32,000 last year to improve our fencing and our security system. I have to tell you that when we were going through the building process, I thought, once we got that done, we'd be done. Our old facility, we'd been there 25 years. Our plans were we would build that thing, we'd walk away, we'd be done. 25 years, I'd be long retired. It'd be somebody else's job to figure out what next. But 3 years later, things haven't quite worked out like we thought. We have a capacity for 36. We have 15 bedrooms. We also accept pets. We're one of the few shelters in Texas that take pets, because very often a pet can become a target of abuse as well as an adult or a child. But since that time, the first full year that we were in operations, we had 5,112 heads in beds. It's really hard to communicate how many people are there because people come and go. A victim may return to her batterer and then come back several times before she makes that final break. So we started counting heads in beds the way hotels do it. And that first year, we had 5,112 heads in beds. The second year, we had 9,886. And this year, we're on target to have 12,586 heads in beds through the end of August. I can tell you that we are overwhelmed. Hardly a day goes by that a victim doesn't call for help, that we have to help her safety plan to stay in her own home. We don't have enough beds in place to help everybody who calls for help, and it's very distressing to think that we may be leaving somebody in a dangerous situation. So we've taken some steps to try to remediate the problem. One of them is we've moved all of our staff to the shelter site. Before we had counseling off premises, we had our legal advocate, we had case management off premises, because not all of our victims use shelter services. Some are non-residential, but we've moved it's all hands on deck. So all of our staff are located there. We've also shortened our length of stay. Victims stay 60 days and that's it, unless you are being stalked or abuse is considered to be likely again. In 60 days, you're going to have to leave because there's another person waiting to get in that bed. And as soon as you walk out the door and we get the room cleaned up, it's going to be in use again. But the good thing about that is we have funding from the state to help them get into permanent housing. We have a case manager, a housing manager that helps them locate housing, and then we can help them get there. But the problem is we don't have enough office space to have all the people that we need to do those services. So I come to you today like that neighbor knocking on your door. I need to borrow one more thing from you. I need to use your lawnmower one more time. I need another cup of sugar. This time we need more funding. And we need I'm back asking respectfully for another piece of the pie of the CDBG fund so that we can build an extension for office space. We'd like to add at least 6 or 8 new offices, depending on how the numbers work out, a group room so that we can have counseling session, and we need a supply closet. Very often victims come in with nothing more than the clothes on their backs, and so we have to be able to offer them shoes and underwear and diapers for their children and hygiene products and all the things that we take for granted that are in our own homes. And so we have a 2-part plan. One is the first year we would like to build an extension with office space, which will free up some bedrooms that we're currently using for offices right now. And in the second year, we want to add 8 additional bedrooms to increase our capacity. There are so many worthy causes, and I hate that we have to compete with any of them, but I don't ask for this on my behalf. It won't benefit me a bit. All it will do is enable us to help more victims and perhaps not have to turn anybody away who comes to us for help. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have any. Can I take 21 seconds and tell you a story? I was at the shelter one day, and I don't talk to victims very often. I unfortunately spend way too much time doing paperwork. And there was a lady in the kitchen, and she needed to talk to somebody. And she said, you know, my husband badgered me so much I lost my job. He wouldn't leave me alone. I lost my kids to CPS. I lost my house. I'm living in a shelter. What the heck is the matter with me? And she said, but you know, I've lost a lot, but I haven't lost my teeth. And I figure as long as I've got my teeth, I'm still okay. And that's kind of how we feel. We have so many challenges. Every day something breaks at the shelter, because how many times can you slam that door and it not fall off its hinges? We have so many things that we face, but there are so many good things that happen there every day. If the fact that there's a woman there who can still say, yay, I've still got my teeth, I thank you for that. I thank you for being our partners in the past and look forward to working with you in the future.
Thank you. Citizens communication still open?
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and our City Manager. My name is Emilio Reyes, 403 Chaparral, President of Victoria Firefighters Association. First of all, I would like to thank y'all for y'all's continued support of our department and our organization over the past few years. I've personally seen the progress and recruiting efforts our department has done over the past few years, and have seen some great people come into our organization because of these efforts. And that's thankfully to y'all and y'all supporting the last market adjustment that was done 2 years ago. I'm here tonight because I want to talk to y'all about the last city council member that I was viewing. There was a slide that Finance Department introduced to y'all that was over a market analysis that was performed again. I want to thank the city manager and HR department for doing what they promised 2 years ago of that market analysis and maintaining it. From the numbers that were presented to y'all, again, we've fallen short comparable to our other cities out there. So I'm here tonight just to reiterate the importance of making sure that we're comparable to other cities of our size and of the services that we're providing to our citizens With that being said, that's why I'm here, and want to meet the vision of our organization, that is being the leader in emergency service excellence. And way of doing that is employee retention, making sure that we're keeping our top people and not losing them to other departments or other agencies for shortcomings on our behalf as a city organization between pay and benefits. But we're still struggling as an organization, even with that last market adjustment and retaining those people here. It seems that at many times that we're focusing on recruiting over the past few years, and we lose sight of looking at the employees that have dedicated their time here, that have stayed, that have shown their experience, and continue to train our new people on a day-to-day basis in the department. And they're really living up to our core values of professionalism, leadership, accountability, teamwork, and employee well-being, day by day. They provide a service to the members of the community that's outstanding. Every day I'm proud to read the paper when it's a story about us, because it's always something good. We've helped somebody in so many ways, and we continue to do that by keeping the experience here. According to the Society for Human Resource Management, an organization can significantly benefit from employee retention programs because of direct effect on employers' bottom line. High turnover can be very expensive. Employee replacement costs can reach up to as high as 50 to 60% of an annual employee's salary. And then causes indirect costs due to decreased productivity. In our case, it's the time that we continuously are out there training our new guys, time and time again. We can't go out and do more advanced training for the guys that have been here for several years and know the basic items. That's where we're losing out, or other organizational projects that we have. So retaining that experienced talent in our organization is crucial to delivering those services. On average, we're losing about 20 members from the department a year through resignation or retirement. That's about a 17 to 18% turnover rate in our department. So that's a pretty significant number. The changes that we did in 2014 to the paramedic rank was one that was significant, that we continuously had issues with. We were down to 12 paramedics back then. With that market adjustment, we're up to 25 paramedics this year, and continuously every testing process continue to attract more paramedics with experience from other departments. That's the first time I can stand up here and say that. So we are leading that change and want to continue that change. Just some statistics of our department right now. Currently, about 43% of the operations personnel have under 5 years of experience. That's a big number there. That's a big red flag for us. About 16% have between 5 and 10 years of experience, 15 between 10 to 14, and 6 between 15 and 19, and 6% over 25 years. So about 50% of our organization has between 0 and 5 years. So employee retention, I think, is something that we need to look at, and I really strive each and one of you to consider that market analysis and make sure it gets funded again. It's very important. We've seen the benefits of it, and maybe even possibly looking at other programs for employee retention, between increasing longevity pay. Other departments, other cities out there have increased longevity pay, bringing back our tuition reimbursement, increasing our retirement from 6% to 7%, or getting a more cost-effective insurance for our employees. Those are some of my personal items that I think that we could work on as an organization to retain that experience in our department. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate everything that y'all do for us and y'all's continued support.
Thank you, Mr. Reyes. Citizens communication still open. If anyone else would like to come forward, now's the time. Seeing no one jump up, we'll close citizens communication. I just do want to mention the community development block grant. That will be a report at the end of the meeting. I know that was discussed, but we're just going to have a report on that. There'll be no decisions made. Let's move into ordinances. We have one ordinance without a public hearing.
That's right. Ordinance C1 is an ordinance replacing Article 3 of Chapter 23 and amending related portions of Chapter 24 of the Victoria City Code related to vehicles for hire and fees, respectively, repealing all conflicting ordinances, providing a penalty not to exceed $500, providing for enforcement, publication, codification, and savings, and declaring an effective date.
So
Move.
Second.
Motion second. Is there any discussion? There was some last time, but I don't recall.
But those issues were addressed, I thought.
I just remember mentioning that there was an opportunity to amend on this one if anyone wanted to. Okay.
I'm still, I get to say I'm new, but I'm confused as to the point of all of this amendment. Is it simply changing the permit fee? Because that's the only thing it seems like it's doing.
The most significant change to the ordinance is at the request of the industry to add a new kind of, a new level of permit that would be a sticker that goes on the windshield of the limousine. That's new. And the purpose of that would be to allow law enforcement to more easily recognize which limousines in town have been licensed by the city of Victoria and which limousines are coming into town from elsewhere.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. No further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, item passes. Now, the consent agenda, are you planning on reading all those?
Unfortunately, yes.
You're required to.
Yes.
Okay.
There are 12 items on the consent agenda tonight. Most of them are annual supply contracts, so this will be very repetitive. The first is the approval of minutes of the special meeting of June 3rd, 2015, and the regular meeting of June 16th, 2015. The second is a resolution awarding a bid for the provision of bulk emergency medical supplies to Boundtree Medical, LLC, in an estimated amount of $97,730.14 for a 12-month period, authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to execute the annual supply contract and declaring an effective date. The third is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an interlocal cooperation contract with the Texas Department of Public Safety for their use of their law enforcement-related forms, publications, and other supplies, and declaring an effective date. The fourth is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute all documents necessary to renew the software maintenance agreement with SunGuard Public Sector for support and maintenance of the police department's record management and computer-aided dispatch systems in the amount of $124,014.47 and declaring an effective date. The fifth is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a renewal of the annual supply contract for bagged Type 1 Portland cement with Alamo Cement Company in the amount of $7.32 per 93-pound bag for a total of approximately $58,560 based on an estimated annual quantity of 8,000 bags and declaring an effective date. The sixth is a resolution awarding an annual supply contract for liquid ammonium sulfate to Brenntag SW in the amount of $168.80 per liquid ton for a total of approximately $28,189.60 based on an estimated annual quantity of 167 liquid tons, authorizing the city manager to execute the contract and declaring an effective date. The seventh is a resolution awarding the annual supply contract for liquid chlorine to Brenntag SW in the amount of $578 per liquid ton for a total of approximately $124,270 based on an estimated annual quantity of 215 liquid tons, authorizing the city manager to execute the contract and declaring an effective date. The eighth is a resolution awarding an annual supply contract for liquid ferrous chloride to Penco Incorporated in the amount of $224 per liquid ton for a total of approximately $59,136 based on an estimated annual quantity of 264 liquid tons, authorizing the city manager to execute the contract and declaring an effective date. The ninth is a resolution awarding the annual supply contract for liquid phosphate-based corrosion inhibitor to Brenntag Southwest in the amount of $755.80 per liquid ton for a total of approximately $56,685 based on an estimated annual quantity of 75 liquid tons, authorizing the city manager to execute the contract and declaring an effective date. The 10th is a resolution awarding an annual supply contract for liquid sodium chloride to International Dioxide in the amount of $923.75 per liquid ton for a total of approximately $110,850 based on an estimated annual quantity of 120 liquid tons, authorizing the city manager to execute the contract and declaring an effective date. The 11th is a resolution awarding an annual supply contract for liquid sulfur dioxide to DPC Incorporated in the amount of $739 per liquid ton for a total of approximately $42,123 based on an estimated annual quantity of 57 liquid tons, authorizing the city manager to execute the contract and declaring an effective date. And the 12th and final is a resolution awarding the annual supply contract for liquid ferrous sulfate to Altivia Chemicals in the amount of $104.40 per liquid ton, for a total of approximately $41,760 based on an estimated annual quantity of 400 liquid tons, authorizing the city manager to execute the contract and declaring an effective date.
Very good. Tempted to applaud.
Please don't.
Make a
Yes.
motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. E2, excuse me.
We're skipping E1. So E2 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute an agreement with the Golden Crescent Habitat for Humanity to grant $21,000 in community development block grant funds and real property located at 3507, 3511, and 3608 Swan Drive in exchange for their agreement to construct at least 3 single-family housing units on those properties and then transfer ownership of those units to low-income households in accordance with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development regulations and declaring an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Mr. Mayfield, do you have some information to share?
This is pretty simple, just like we've done before, granting 3 additional lots. Up on the screen, a little bit hard to read, but gave you a map of Swan Crossing. Everything in red are program houses, everything in green are the previously dedicated, and the 3 lots that we're talking about tonight shown in green on there. We are down to, according to this map, we're down to 14, and I believe we have a couple more contracts sitting in our office today. So the subdivision is very quickly filling up. Nice change to be able to report that to you. But tonight before you is the 3 lots and granting $7,000 per lot in infrastructure assistance. So
Very good. Thank you for the map.
sure.
To put it in perspective. Thank you.
I just wanted to make a statement in that I was never against Habitat. I just said, let's spread it all over town, but, but I just wanted to make that clear. And I also wanted to ask you, Jared, in case that one of these houses was to be not necessarily or foreclosed on, would that come back to you guys or would it go back to Habitat and they would have to reissue it again in the same guidelines?
If a Habitat house was
foreclosed
foreclosed by
on.
Habitat, it would go back to Habitat because they are the lien holder.
Okay.
So,
And would
and they would
the
in turn.
guidelines for the CDBG still apply, or does that become their property where they can do whatever they?
It's still their property where they could do whatever they would want, but knowing their guidelines, they would
still
try to
be-
put another
Person that
Habitat
would- okay,
person
that's
into that
fine.
house.
Very good. Ms. Scott, you had something you.
Yes, I simply wanted to say that while I support Habitat as an attorney who does their closings, to avoid an appearance of impropriety, I'm going to abstain on this vote.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further discussion, council? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
E3 is a resolution ratifying the city manager's execution of an emergency construction contract with Palacios Marine and Industrial Coatings Incorporated for the North Navarro Street at Mockingbird Lane emergency sanitary sewer line replacement in the amount of $81,428.23, ratifying the Director of Public Works execution of additive change order number 1 in the amount of $45,309.56, bringing the contract amount to $126,737.79 and declaring an effective date.
Move we adopt E3.
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Short, did you?
I would like to add, Mr. Mayor, actually Councilwoman Solis brought this to my attention today, that the change order that we're asking you to ratify and the detail for that change order was inadvertently omitted from the packet. So I've had those passed out to you this evening so you could see the change order and the detail behind that. The additions primarily were associated with additional backfill and hot mix that was required to fill much larger voids than we originally anticipated were there. We also had to not only replace one manhole, but 2 adjacent manholes were determined to be in very bad shape also. So we had to bring in a subcontractor to seal that manhole and actually completely rebuild one in place with the sealant. And so that's why you'll see the additional cost there.
End up just keep on going at that rate. I know how it is. Is this the one that the pavement raised up like 5 inches from all the water?
No,
Cause
that
of
that was a
traffic
water
problem.
break. That was
That's-
near that area.
Same
This was a sewer cave-in, actually, a manhole cave-in.
Okay.
What do you attribute that to, Lynn?
It was a location where a force main emptied into a gravity sewer, and so you had a lot of agitation there as pumped wastewater entered into a gravity situation, and the off-gassing there basically ate the concrete manhole up. What we've done now is, of course, we replaced it with a fiberglass manhole so that corrosion wouldn't occur, but we also put redirected that flow down to below the water level in that manhole so that you don't have all that off-gassing occurring at that location. And it's not uncommon where you have a force main entering into a gravity sewer. A lot of off-gassing occurs, and we're finding this at multiple locations. Unfortunately, this one we didn't detect until there was already a large, significant void under the pavement there.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further questions? Not all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Item E4 is a resolution approving change order number 1 to the Odom Street wastewater plant project with CSA Construction Incorporated in the amount of $146,898, bringing the new contract amount to $15,760,898, authorizing the Director of Public Works to execute the change and declaring an effective date.
Council?
I'll move to adopt.
Second.
Motion and second. Discussion, questions?
I have a question, Mr. Short.
Yes.
As opposed to doing a change order, why wouldn't this particular work be bid out separately?
Because we've already got a contractor mobilized to the site doing work on the line that where this gate is, and in fact, the sludge line where the pig retrieval station is being installed is actually being performed as part of that contract. So it just makes sense in my opinion, to change order the work in. You avoid the additional cost of bidding and the additional mobilization costs that you might assume if you brought in a different contractor to do that.
Okay. They didn't have unit rates to really go by?
Well, they gave us if you're talking about both items really, they give you some breakdown there if you look at the detail behind it, but it's not broken out in complete unit pricing. But the gate that's being replaced is a very large diameter gate. The one that's there now was installed when the plant was constructed in the 70s. It was a cast iron gate manufactured by Armco Steel, who's no longer in business. What we're going back with now is a large stainless steel screen that will not corrode or not corrode as significantly as the cast iron did, with electric actuators so that it can be exercised on a regular basis. Because the problem now is it's frozen in place, and so we have no control of the influent wastewater coming into the plant. We can't reduce that flow in the event we need to, and so we need to be able to control that flow for heavy rainfall events and that sort of thing.
You don't anticipate that they're going to come back with any additional costs because they don't exactly know what's there?
Well, they have looked at that significantly. The only additional cost I could think of would be if a high flow event occurred during the construction of that part where bypass pumping had to be extended, then there might be some additional costs that I could foresee. We're trying to wait until we get into a no rainfall period to get that work done so that we can minimize the bypass pumping.
Okay.
What's your funding source? Is it from the bond proceeds?
Yes, sir. This will be from the contingency associated with that project.
We're still under the total amount, aren't we?
Oh, yes.
Significant. What is the timetable while we're on the subject for the plant, roughly?
Roughly a year from now to be complete, and we're probably It was June of 2016 to start with. We're probably 3 months behind right now with construction on almost all of our construction projects because of the significant rainfall that we've experienced early in the year here. So it might be late summer instead of early summer now.
Council, is there anything else?
Do you remember by chance how much the engineering cost with this project, associated with this project was?
I'm sorry, I don't remember off the top of my
Because
head.
that
Do
would
you?
be part of the total cost.
Yes, it is. It is. I can't
Okay.
either, I'm sorry.
No,
A
no,
lot.
that's fine, that's fine.
A lot.
I know it's a lot, that's why I'm
Like
trying,
15%, yeah.
because we need to add it to this to figure out how much we have left if we, I'm just thinking out loud.
Okay,
Does
that's
the
okay.
15 include the engineer cost? The total project? Are you including the engineering cost when you say total cost?
Yeah, it's,
The 15?
yeah.
It's part of this 15?
Oh, no, it's not
No,
part
I
of the
didn't think
15.
so.
No,
I
no,
just
no,
think
no,
it's
Part of
no.
the bond sale.
My-
15% is part of the, yeah, okay.
Yeah, my man said total bond sale included the construction and engineering as well.
Okay.
If I'm not incorrect, Gilbert, the contingency right now is 1 point.
We got about 1.2.
Two.
But keep in mind, when you're dealing with a $21 million project, that 1.2, it's really small number
Yeah.
for contingency. And Lynn's doing a pretty good job in holding that
Well, you're
down.
not going to come back, yeah. I'm sure there'll be a change order.
There will
I
be other
understand.
change orders there.
I hope you're right.
We hope not, well, we hope not. We hope we have all that contingent, but anyway.
Okay, but because I've been against this project since the beginning, I will be voting no on it, okay? Just wanted to let you know.
Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, council.
Item E5 is a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a memorandum of understanding with the County of Victoria for the 2015 Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program application to be submitted by the county in the amount of $29,633, of which the city is to receive $14,448.42 upon award of the grant, and declaring an effective date.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Motion second. Any questions? Chief, did you have anything to share in particular, or?
Good evening, Mayor, members of City Council. I don't have anything to add. I was just here in case there was any additional questions concerning it.
Okay.
What is that going to bring our total body camera count to?
106.
Are they exactly like the ones we had, or comparable, or are they different than the
They're
ones? we had?
exactly like the ones we have.
Okay. Just wanted to ask.
Very good. Okay. No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, city manager reports.
Jarrett's going to, you've heard a little bit from some of the agencies, but Jarrett's going to talk about the recommendation on funding. And again, as a reminder, tonight is just a discussion on it, recommendation, council, you'll go back, look at what Jarrett's presented, and when we bring it back for a vote, that's your time to make recommendations for either agreeing or changing.
All right. Yes, we'll have a work session on your July 21st agenda, and then the August 4th meeting would be final approval of the annual action plan, and of course the 5-year plan that we've talked a little bit about over the last several months. Everybody has a copy of the recommendations, correct? Okay, great.
No, we don't.
You don't?
Front.
Yeah. It's what was emailed to you yesterday.
Oh, I didn't print it.
Well, I'll try to make sure you get a copy of it, or give you
share
my
with
copy
you.
at the end of the meeting. There's a lot of numbers on it, so I can't give you my copy just yet. But as we've told you before, there's $508,170 is the grant allocation for the 2015-2016 year. As we've also told you before, we're allowed to allocate up to 15% of that to public services. There's also a caveat that allows us to add on to that with up to 15% of the program income that we've received, because Swan Crossing has done so well this year. We've collected a little over $60,000 in program income this year, so we're able to add 15% of that, which lets us, instead of providing $76,000 $225 to public services, we're able to provide $85,862. So staff has increased that allocation amount to the maximum allowed, pulling out all the tricks.
Is that what that adds up to?
Yes,
The
sir.
recommendation?
Our recommendations add up to that 85,000 and change amount.
So you have zero left.
We have zero left. We've allocated every dollar, or recommended allocating every dollar available under that category. Very quickly, we received 11 proposals for a total funding request of $162,798, basically double what is available. All of those applications were reviewed to make sure that they would comply, and we've come back to you tonight with some recommendations which are on that report that was emailed to you. There's, as you know, there are two agencies that were not recommended, or two applications that were not recommended. The Children's Discovery Museum, and then Faith Family had submitted an application for an Adopt a Block program, which is also not being recommended because of funding restrictions. Nothing to do with the worthiness of the project, just simply doesn't fit in this year's budget very well. I don't know whether you want me to go down the list, but
I think go down the
Go
list
ahead.
and explain
Okay.
a little bit about the program, please.
Sure. So, alphabetical order, Boys and Girls Club, we received a request from them for an after-school program. They received $10,000 last year. We're recommending providing $7,310. They had asked for $10,000 continuing this year. A new program, or new agency, was CASA for their volunteer program. They requested $5,000, where staff is recommending $4,500.
Do you know what that program's about, the cost of volunteers?
Court-appointed special advocates. It's a
Help fund their,
fund there to help recruit volunteers
okay.
to be the child advocates. So again, that's a new program this year. Of course, we received the grant application from Children's Discovery Museum for $17,500. Staff is not recommending funding that application this year. Community Action Committee, we received two applications for them for two programs that we have previously funded. The Meals on Wheels for senior citizens. They received requested $12,000. We're recommending $10,000. Their water utility bill assistance program, they requested $14,000. We're recommending $10,000. Faith Family eviction prevention assistance. That's emergency rental assistance. They requested $12,000. We're recommending $10,000. Food Bank of the Golden Crescent, for a kids backpack feeding program that works in conjunction with VISD and their Kids Connection, which is their homeless outreach program. They requested $14,000. Staff is recommending $10,000. A new program for this year, Gulf Bend is asking for assistance to get their wellness community program up and running. They requested $47,652. Staff is recommending $8,732. VISD Kids Connection, that's their again their homeless assistance program. They requested $12,000. Staff is recommending $10,000. Perpetual Help Home for their Opportunity Knocks, which is a employment entrepreneurial program for their residents and participants in their agency. They requested $82.46. Staff is recommending $7,000. And YMCA requested money for an after-school care and summer camp programs for $10,400, and staff is recommending $83.20. And then the public's that's all of it under the public services. Public facilities, we received one grant application. You already heard from Ms. Stafford. They were requesting $175,000. Staff is recommending $125,000. So those are staff's recommendations. When I come back to you, the next meeting, you'll have the full annual action plan where you can look at all the other activities that are in that grant beyond the public services and public facilities. But it's The rest of that is basically made up of admin, continuing our park program with work in the community center park, I believe, to replace the playground equipment. We're doing the splash pad along with general fund this year, and so next year we'd go back with replacing the playscape in that neighborhood, and continuing code enforcement, demolition, and the mortgage assistance program. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know I kind of ran through a bunch of numbers there real quick, but the intent tonight was really to just try to get these numbers out in front of you and out in the public so that we can begin to get input as we move forward towards adoption next month.
What agenda will it be on? When?
For the vote, it'd be the August the 4th.
August the
We've got
4th.
it back on the 21st.
We'll have it back on the 21st because we'll be giving you a significant amount of reading material for the consolidated plan and action plan.
Oh, okay.
200 pages for your enjoyment.
Updated. Mr. Alvarez, you had a question.
Let's talk about the Faith Family for a second, the agents. So am I to understand that they were asking for 2,000 additional dollars that didn't qualify under they were going to do some cleanup?
Oh, I don't know if I've got that right in front of me. No, they were asking for an additional, they were
Oh, was it
proposing an
different?
additional program that would have done an adopt-a-block specifically for
So
the
it's not
kids.
even listed here.
It's not even listed here. It didn't fall in the public service category. It would,
I would just like, there's no duplication between what CAC is doing and what Faith Family is doing? Because one is water utility.
one is,
assist-
yes, one is the utility bill assistance and one is rent assistance. There's no
duplication.
There's not any real duplication. Maybe a little bit between the Boys and Girls Club and YMCA, with both of them doing after-school programs.
Does Faith Family also kick in some money? Is there some match on their part?
I believe so. I don't have.
You can address it next time.
Okay.
Those are just my questions about that particular one.
Along those lines, is the VISD Kids Connection also rent assistance?
No, ma'am.
What
That's
did you say that was for?
That's a kind of a counseling program. They have a teacher liaison, a part-time teacher liaison that helps the parents and the students with housing assistance, giving them counseling on, making sure that the student is fed and doesn't have truancy and all kinds of issues that come about because that student is homeless or likely to be homeless, from nutrition and housing and hygiene. And
Sounds right from what I've heard.
Yeah, I think it's more nutrition, though. Don't you think, Jared? A lot of it's nutrition.
Right, and helping them get through the various social programs that are available in town. And the food bank backpack feeding program works in conjunction with that VISD Kids Connection program. So they're helping to coordinate getting those food backpacks that go home with the kids on the weekends when there isn't a meal program going on at the schools.
Would you be able to give me a more detailed explanation about the Discovery Museum and what exactly they need to collect for participants to qualify?
They have to collect actual proof of income. So I don't know how you would there's not going to be a very easy way to do that online. They're going to need to get the last 3 months of income, literal proof of income, whether that's check stubs, and there's quite a task in collecting income information. So
every one of these other agencies have done that?
Yes, sir.
So,
Something like CASA is considered a presumed benefit, so there's not income documentation required for that. But for the most part, all of the community action programs, Boys and Girls Club, all of those agencies we've been funding for years, and they pretty much have it down pat of what's required to collect income-wise.
YMCA does that too?
YMCA does it too.
And it's certainly, none of the decisions is a judgment on the worthiness of any program. I know you all feel the same way. And unfortunately, the strings attached to this federal money, it's frustrating. I wish we could do what we want with it, but we can't. So I would encourage, a lot of the agencies are here, and tonight's not the night for them to speak, sorry. But now, rather, some of you spoke earlier, but learn from each other. It takes a while to figure out how to get these applications right, how you structure your programs. Ask each other questions on how it's done. I would encourage that. That's just me thinking out loud.
Staff holds an orientation open house before each application period. The Children's Discovery Museum did not participate in that. It's not everyone has to, but it's a good, highly recommended for new agencies that might be interested. There's a lot of information that's discussed, and certainly they can visit with each other and learn from each other.
Whatever the outcome of the decision when we vote, whether we take this or if there's any changes, would encourage everyone. There's always next year, and of course, I really believe this will go away in a few years. It is a fraction of what it was just 10, 15 years
Right.
ago. So
It's gonna-
agencies should be aware of that.
Even if our annual grant allocation stays the way it is, we were able to supplement it with $9,000 from program income. That's quickly going to go away. We may have that next year, assuming that the Swan Crossing program continues to do as well as it has. But yeah, there's going to be some very tough decisions to be made. We're going to have to look at possibly not funding some programs or alternating or something. I don't want to get down to the point where we're just giving an agency $1,000 each or something that's not going to produce a meaningful benefit.
Well,
There's
you'll
some
change all the reading material that you're going to give us, you'll change your focus and narrow it down, right? That's, I guess.
And it's
how
been
you would do it.
we've fairly narrowed it down with the new consolidated plan as it's been in the past. It's primarily focused on trying to help the homeless, prevent homelessness, and assist youth and elderly and disabled. So it's been fairly narrowly defined. Maybe the youth hasn't so much, but
I suggest that we cap it either in years or amount of money once they hit that cap, and then they're not eligible. They have to sit out a year or two or whatever. I don't know if that's still part of the discussion. Are there other agencies not listed here that total up to 162,000? I haven't done the math on the request that you've got here. But are there other agencies that asked for funding but didn't on this list, this master list? Or is that all?
no, that's
of them?
all of them. There were 11 agencies, and that's all of them.
That's all of them? Okay.
It should.
Well, I'm not gonna, I was just curious if some of them didn't
Looks
even
like
make.
it adds up.
Yeah, this was, they all made this list and,
Yes, sir. We
okay.
didn't hold something back, so provided you with everything. That's why there's kind of full disclosure on the front of that of the two agencies or the two programs that we weren't recommending this year.
And one question, City Manager. Now, you said August 4th is a vote, but it's coming back on the
21st.
just so we can discuss.
Consolidate plan, yeah, you'll be able to discuss
Oh, that's right.
anything with the consolidated plan, so it's a
Okay.
component of that.
Absolutely.
So absolutely.
Okay.
That 21st is another opportunity for us to be in front of the public, continuing to try to get public input on the plan.
It's also an opportunity for the agencies to speak again.
Sure.
So, and I'm sure Darla will be glad to contact them and let them know that it's another opportunity, so.
Okay. Council, do you have any other questions? Jared?
Did we get your question answered, Mr. Botnight, on the income eligibility for the children? So you don't need anything else on that? You're good, okay.
All right.
Thank you. No work session. We do have an executive session.
Yes, sir.
So our meeting is concluded and we'll adjourn to executive session upstairs.
Upstairs. The
thank
City
you.
Council will recess for executive session on the 7th day of July, 2015 at 6:00 p.m. The subject matter of the executive session deliberation is as follows. Texas Government Code, Section 551.071, consultation with an attorney on a matter involving pending or contemplated litigation or other matter in which the duty of the attorney to the governmental body under the Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Thank you.